Hey everyone, this is Elenbaas from Nightlight Astrology, and today we are back to take a deeper look at the archetypal combination of the Sun and Jupiter, who are coming together in the sign of Aries today. This is a big moment within the Synodic cycle of Jupiter. It's a kind of reset or rebirth moment. We talked about that yesterday. If you want to learn more about the Synodic cycle of Jupiter and some of the ins and outs of how that cycle works and where we are in that cycle right now, you can watch yesterday's video. Today, we are going to break down 5 of the major archetypal Sun-Jupiter themes to watch for today and this week. You maybe have already noticed some of these things coming in over the past few days even. So that's our agenda for today. Don't forget, as always, to like and subscribe. Share your comments in the comments section. Really helps the channel to grow. You can find a transcript of today's talk on the website, which is nightlightastrology.com. I'm also really excited to be announcing the beginning of our enrollment season. We are enrolling students for our upcoming classes in the month of June. So we have several classes starting in June. We have the Year 1 program, which is where most of you will want to start if you'd like to study and learn more about ancient Hellenistic astrology and how to read birth charts from the Hellenistic point of view. You can check out the courses on the website. This is at nightlightastrology.com. Actually, let me move this around a little bit. When you go to the website, click on the courses tab, go to the first year program. You can learn more about it. Over the course of a year together, you can learn all about the curriculum, hear what some of the alumni have had to say about their experiences. There's 30 online webinars that I teach. And then we have 12 online guest lectures that come in outside of that. We also have a forum discussion that's staffed with live tutors. You can ask questions and always get answers within 24 hours. We also have breakout study and tutoring sessions in between major units of study in addition to the 30 classes. Everything's recorded. There's tons of bonus material, optional homework and quizzes you can take to help enhance your skills. You can contact me throughout the course at any point in time, in addition to our tutoring staff for help. You get lifetime access to all the recordings. You can attend live or follow along with the recordings as you can. If you go to the bottom of the page, I want you to check out the early bird payment, which saves you a good amount of money. And we also have a payment plan if you need a little help with that. And then probably the best option for some of you is going to be need-based tuition. So you can see the need-based tuition assistance is right there. We do have a limited amount of those available for each section, but there's usually plenty to be able to help people who need a little bit of help making the price point manageable within a fixed budget. We don't want this class to only be affordable for people who are at a certain income range. So we try to make this something that can help people. If you would like a little bit of help, check that option out and we can see if we can help you make it more affordable to study astrology with us. Now remember, Year 2 and Horary also start in June. If you have any questions about any of those upcoming programs, email us, info@nightlightastrology.com. Hope to see some of you guys in classes soon. I think it's going to be a fantastic cohort because we have Pluto's entrance into Aquarius as the backdrop within which we are starting our studies of astrology this spring. So it's a fantastic time to dive in. All right, well, from there, let us scoot over to the real-time clock and take a look at the Sun's conjunction with Jupiter before we get into the 5 major archetypal themes to watch for. All right, so here's the real-time clock. And the one thing I want to really emphasize here is that, again, this is the beginning of a new synodic cycle for Jupiter. When the Sun conjoins Jupiter, that marks sort of like the new moon moment for the planet Jupiter. Now, the last new moon for Jupiter was in March of 2022, and we took everybody through that cycle yesterday and sort of identify the different aspects of the cycle, the dates on which those happened. And so you could go back and revisit that. If you didn't watch yesterday's video, there's a lot of information about how to track this new Jupiter cycle that is getting set up here for us as the conjunction occurs. But there's the conjunction. It's happening today, Tuesday, April 11th. You'll be able to feel it into tomorrow, Thursday, Friday, give it about 3 degrees of separation. But the reason that you're going to be able to feel this one even more is that let's take a look at what happens under our next new moon. So if we go forward just a little bit, we're going to see that the next new moon is a solar eclipse at the anaretic last degree of Aries. And that eclipse is still pretty close to Jupiter. And that's on April 19th. So we're entering into eclipse season pretty soon, and this eclipse season will reactivate the conjunction from Jupiter. So you could say that the Jupiter-Sun conjunction is a little bit of a precursor to the upcoming eclipse. Now, we will be talking about that eclipse in depth in future videos. And also, for everyone who's asking me to talk more about the fact that the eclipse will be happening in a square, moving across the sign boundary into a square with Pluto, I've heard you. We'll make sure to discuss that. And maybe I'll even tell you a little bit more about why sign boundaries can be tricky in Hellenistic astrology. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. For now, let's talk about the Sun and Jupiter and 5 of the major themes that you can watch for when the Sun and Jupiter get together. Now, the list that I am giving you could be understood for any Sun-Jupiter conjunction or any Sun-Jupiter aspect. If it's a trine, if it's a square, if it's an opposition, you will see that these themes tend to express themselves, though slightly differently depending on the nature of the aspect. You know, trines and sextiles a little bit more supportive and harmonious. Squares a little bit more dynamic and tense. Oppositions, often the same way, a little bit more dynamic and tense. Conjunctions really have the feeling of a fusion of the planets together into one archetypal, like an archetypal blend. So, but this list could really work for any of the aspects between the Sun and Jupiter. There's maybe a couple, and I'll try to distinguish as we go along which ones are more specific to the synodic reset of the conjunction. Actually, the first one is, so let's get into it. Number 1 is the death and rebirth of authority or paternal figures. Now, the reason I use authority or paternal figures is that both can be represented by the Sun or Jupiter. Remember that when the Sun is going to conjoin Jupiter, it means that Jupiter is very late in its life. In fact, a superior planet like Mars, Jupiter, or Saturn, when the Sun is about to conjoin that planet, it was often depicted as an old person or someone on their deathbed. Excuse me. So when a planet is old and like on its deathbed, the next thing that happens with the actual conjunction is the rebirth, or sometimes in the case of horary astrology, when a planet would be cazimi or at the heart of the Sun, a person would go from being sick or near dead, like symbolically speaking, to rising up off their sickbed and starting to recover. And so there's a kind of death and rebirth motif that happens when the Sun conjoins one of those superior planets. So when I say death and rebirth, I'm leaving that as a pretty broad symbolic statement. And when we talk about authority or paternal figures, we could also talk about that abstractly. For example, what has authority in your life in terms of a life philosophy, religious beliefs, institutions that you belong to, or structures in your life that grant some kind of ethical or moral or philosophical coherence. The death and rebirth of those Jupiterian patterns can occur as the synodic cycle is being reset. But also things like fathers or leaders or authority figures, both represented by the Sun and Jupiter, having a kind of a moment of transition or reset. So death and rebirth is one way of talking about that reset. It's amazing to me how the Sun's conjunction with Jupiter will often depict the death of statesmen or political leaders or things like that, which is sort of unexpected. It's like you think most of the time people don't think of Jupiter associated with death, but remember that Jupiter was the cosmic hand of justice and was associated with the courts and with a judgment, and the judgment that would rise people up or throw people down. So Jupiter has this long history of not just being associated with all these kind of expansive themes, but also with themes of justice and judgment. And when the sun and Jupiter get together, it can mark these moments where Zeus is like hurling a lightning bolt and the CEO is retiring and stepping down because of a scandal, or the grandfather is passing away suddenly of a heart attack. And I don't mean to sound as though that would be because they did something wrong. It just has this, there's this sense of the solar or Jupiterian figures going through a death. And that death could be, that death could be an honorable thing, like retirement or something. But sometimes there is a sense of those kinds of figures going through a transformation. And sometimes that transformation is sudden. I've seen Jupiter sun signatures more times than I can count, when fathers or grandfathers pass away, when people retire, when leaders die, all that kind of stuff. So it's remarkable, actually. Anyway, I would also say that the paternal figure could be something about your own internal authority. So how do I make decisions? Do I feel empowered to make decisions? What are my beliefs? What grants a sense of virtue and like philosophical coherence to my life? And how is that changing right now? So it's a Jupiterian reset moment that could mean the death and rebirth of authoritative structures that guide our life from the standpoint of virtue or belief. Now, the second one is, these are all of the, kind of watch out for these. And this would be self-importance, inflation, arrogance, bravado, machismo. And there's a dramatic flair and a grandiosity that can be really charming and fun when it comes to the sun and Jupiter. So I don't mean to like strike down all, like kill, like be a buzzkill. But the potential for this transit to amplify the ego is one of the real shadows. That's one of the real shadows of the transit. Self-importance would be the sense that my thoughts, my behavior, my ideas, my actions, my knowledge, my rank, whatever, is better or greater than everyone else's. And it can be a sign of kind of like narcissistic tendencies, the tendency to think that we are the measure of all things, that our judgment is somehow superior to everyone else's, to be inflated in terms of overestimating how great something is, or to be feeling so good that you kind of, you traipse into, the land of bravado and and arrogance. And there's also something about this, especially because we have an exalted sun in the sign of Mars, and it's a fiery sign that can be very muscular and like macho. And, that doesn't have to be like, you could see the sun conjoined Jupiter, exalted sun conjoined Jupiter, as like the Mr. Olympia or, Miss Universe competition or something like that. Like, I think that's the one where it's bodybuilding, right? I know the Olympia one is. I don't know what the female equivalent is or whatever. But anyway, the idea of something being like Zeus-like and strong and powerful and beautiful and like radiant, maybe that's actually a beautiful thing. But you do have to be important. You do have to be careful about the tendency to overestimate your own importance, or the importance of someone or something that has that kind of heroic muscular quality, because you can be seduced by something like that too. At the same time, I want to say that number 3 is also true, which is that this transit births confidence, charisma, enthusiasm, joy, sunshine, belief, trust, and hope. And sometimes it's a fine line. Sometimes people might find that because you're confident and enthusiastic, they think you're self-important, but you're not. You're just happy. Sometimes people will think you're arrogant, but you're just exuding sunshine. Sometimes people will think that you've got a bunch of bravado going on, but you've got belief, trust, and hope, So, and I think we know the difference, because the qualitative difference is usually between joy and dominance. It's like the joyfulness of this transit is truly wonderful. And when you're filled with joy, you can be charming. And there's maybe you're a little cocksure, but it's charming and it's harmless. You're not trying to hurt anyone or assert yourself over anyone. And so I would say just pay attention, and pay attention to what you're irritated by as well. For example, you might be around other people and you might be noticing that some of the people that you're around are, extremely happy and confident. And it might irritate you because maybe those are qualities that we find it hard to access at the moment. And we wish we could. And it's easy to not pay attention. I mean, I think one of the hardest things for us to admit is jealousy and envy. Because in order to admit that, we have to, there's something that, oh, it doesn't feel very good. Like I must be a petty, bad person if I'm envious or resentful or jealous of someone because they're happy and strong and confident and joyful. But to me, like I have found within myself that that is one of the most essential tools that I have in my kit is when I'm noticing, hey, I'm in a bad mood and my kids are super happy or my wife is super happy. And I want to like, oh, maybe I want to knock them down a peg because I'm in a bad mood. And if I can catch myself and be like, hey, I'm just jealous and envious because I'm in a bad mood and I wish I had some sunshine and I'm just resenting or envying sunshine right now, that as soon as I recognize that, I feel stronger and more confident and capable and good about myself because I have enough self-respect to be honest with myself. And suddenly it's weird how if you can be honest about that little piece of envy or resentment that crops up, you immediately start feeling good about yourself. Yeah, like I'm a big enough person to recognize that I'm being envious and and bitter. And if that's how I'm acting and I don't have to act that way, well then like I'm a strong person for being able to admit that and recognize that. And suddenly you start feeling good about yourself. Like, okay, I'm gonna let that go. And I can be a big person here. So I think even like just the ability, one of the things about Sun Jupiter is the ability to turn negative emotions into positive emotions. And sometimes that happens by just being confident and honest with yourself with negative emotions that you're dealing with. Like, well, I'm feeling crappy, but you know what? That's okay. Suddenly there's sunshine breaking through the clouds of the negative emotion just because you decided that it was okay. It was okay. You accept it. So just don't mistake this transit for being nothing but sunshine. It's also about the confidence to choose how to reframe difficult things. That is one of the reasons. Another word we could have used is this transit tends to be redeeming, forgiving, graceful, uplifting, because of what it chooses to do with negative or difficult moods or environments or feelings and thoughts. Anyway, number 4 is carpe diem. Now, Ren Butler mentions this phrase. I think it's in the cookbook that he mentions carpe diem, but I don't know if it's with this one or another Jupiter one. But I love this. Of course, everybody knows this from Dead Poet Society. Carpe diem, seize the day. But one of the things I love about this synodic reset moment with the Sun Jupiter coming right before an eclipse at that last degree of Aries is there is a sense that like, let's do it. This is a seed that's being planted and it is action oriented. It is fueled by this charisma and this budding feeling of needing to move in a new direction. Aries loves to start things. So seize the day. There's this feeling of take a risk, be bold, blaze a trail, be a pioneer in some little way. Do that hard thing. So I think one of the most enjoyable, satisfying qualities about the transit is the desire to seize the moment and to do something new, to start something, to do that hard thing you don't think you could do, or to find the motivation to go for it. And then number 5 goes along with this, but a bold new vision, the seeds being planted. So the other thing you have to remember is that for many of us, the seeds will start to appear of new things during this transit, but it'll take a while to play out because we have an eclipse coming at the anaretic degree. We have Jupiter finishing up in Aries between now and later in May. And so just give it time. The other thing is that Aries can be extremely impatient and impulsive, and it often will start things, but doesn't always finish them too. So beware of the seeding desires that become somewhat impulsive and impatient right now, and know that this bold new vision that's being planted is going to take some time and some tending and a little bit of patience. And Jupiter's moving from cardinal fire into fixed earth soon, where we have to build and sustain what's getting started with the reset of this cycle. So that's where things are heading. And I encourage everybody to really take a moment to reflect this week on the desires and intentions and wishes and aspirations that are starting to crop up. It's metaphorical spring right now in the zodiac. For many people in the northern hemisphere, it's literal spring. But think about it as an energetic spring, and the first new signs of life that are coming up right now. The other thing you have to remember about Aries energy is that it's energy and potential. If you don't do something about it, nothing's going to happen. So, pay attention to what's coming up right now, form some plans, start doing the first actions or steps to make some of those goals, translating them into action items or whatever it is. Because if you just sit back and do nothing, the other thing that'll happen is that this will be just a big burst of excitement, but it'll be a nothing burger. So anyway, a bold new vision, the seeds being planted, the need to act, and the reminder that it will take some time. Okay, well, that's where we went today. I hope that was enjoyable for everybody. And again, as always, gives you some good things to think about. You can find a transcript of today's talk on the website, nightlightastrology.com. Hop over there and check out the upcoming courses, and make sure you check out the need-based tuition option if we can help you make one of our courses a little bit more affordable. It starts in June, the next course, and enrollment, we're already getting lots of enrollment. So we ask that if you're going to use the need-based tuition, the sooner you apply for it, the better, because we want to make sure that we don't wait to the very last minute to be working with those. Contracts take a little bit. We have a form people have to fill out and stuff like that. So use it now. Hopefully we'll see you in class soon. And in the meantime, I hope you guys are having a good week. Don't forget to share some of your stories. Use the hashtag grabbed if you've got a good Sun Jupiter story to share. We'd love to hear from you guys. All right, that's it for today. See you tomorrow.